Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mission Apollo, the official Apollo Scooters podcast. We're going to jump right into things today because today we're talking about quality control, something that we have been talking about for a long time, along with a lot of other companies, something that has been a bit of a challenge for us, but also we have a lot of proud or successes, rather, a lot of success points. But to talk about it with us today is one of our junior engineers, Aaron. And thank you for joining me, Aaron. How are you today?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me on the show, or on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So why don't we start just by introducing yourself? Give us what your title is, and obviously you're very heavily involved in quality control. So if you could give us like a bit of a quick summary of what involvement you have here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as Sean just said, I'm a mechanical engineering graduate from UNB. For the past, before joining Apollo, I was working as a product developer and project manager for a well-known Canadian hockey company. So I worked for them for 4 years. And then I just recently moved to Montreal, and I was looking for a new place to work. And I found work with Apollo, and I've been loving it ever since. So I guess my main role at Apollo is one, to work on the design of any new and upcoming scooters in parallel with Elwa and the rest of our design team. I've also been working very hard on the quality assurance and quality check of all of our products, and ensuring that our new factory, that I'm sure you will hear soon about, follows our quality assurance and quality checks properly. And then a third role that I've been taking on is to assure that our manufacturing costs is kept as low as possible while not compromising quality and safety, so that you guys, the end users, can have a great scooter at an affordable price. So those are my three roles here at Apollo, my three main roles.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's also a tricky balancing between like quality and cost. And we hear a lot of people saying like, I want to buy local, I want to buy North American, but the unfortunate reality is moving production over here would cost a lot more. And unfortunately, there is kind of that negative connotation with anything that's made in China or overseas. Everything that's outsourced has lower quality, but it's not necessarily the case, is it?
No. Again, like the whole quality assurance and quality check were like we're going to see in the future, hopefully very soon. We've been building our own factory in China, and the factory in China is following North American standards. So all of our quality assurance and quality checks, they're all done in Canada, and we make sure that they follow it as closely as possible. So we're trying to have Canadian standards at our factory in China, which is it's a big challenge, but it's a lot of work, but it's slowly coming there, and if not already there. Yeah.
So Canadian standards. So that means there's a free included poutine and maple syrup for every.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone.
Yeah. So let's talk about the factory real quick, since you brought that up. This is an exclusive factory that we have opened up recently, right? And it's how big is it again?
I'm not sure of the exact size, but currently all of the production for the Polo City is being done on that factory, and we still have enough space to have another 2-3 lines of production on that floor. So it's really, really big. It's like that. The whole floor includes like packaging. They have a testing facility where they do all the testing on all the on some of the scooters and all the incoming products. So it's a very, very big floor. Right now, we're probably only utilizing about 30% of the floor. But soon we'll try to move all of our product on that floor to ensure better quality assurance and quality checks.
Okay. So I guess maybe for anyone who's not aware, like we've brought this up before. We've been utilizing different warehouses, especially OEMs in the initial stages of our company. But now we are moving towards proprietary models, proprietary scooters, and with that, like our own proprietary warehouse even. And so what you just said is it's only for the city right now, but it sounds like we're going to be moving all of our production to this warehouse or this factory soon.
Yes, yeah. Eventually, that's the goal. Let's say the upcoming Pro that we just launched recently, that would all be manufactured on this line as well, and other scooters that we can't mention yet that are upcoming as well. Very exciting stuff. They would also be manufactured on there, just because we have a lot more control on the quality assurance and quality check of any products done there. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about a little of the quality control that we're working on. It's something that we have been striving to improve. We already do, I think, a fairly good job of that, but there's always room for improvement. Now, I believe you've been working on a lot of different quality control standards. How much of that can you share? Can you give us some examples of the kind of tests they do over there?
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so since I've been here, we've been trying to ensure that the factory over there, like I said earlier, follow like a very strict quality assurance and quality check. So let's say like whenever we want to start a new batch or a new production set of production units, we every single component that enters into our new factory has to go through an incoming QC. So every single, so let's say we order a bunch of I don't know, a bunch of batteries. Every single batteries that we order, we take 5% of them and we make them go through very, very rigorous tests. So, yes, so like, and those are all things that we've worked in-house. We work with other professionals, make sure that those tests are good. They're meet our standard and even above our standards. So that's the first step of quality check, is that every single component that goes into a scooter first gets tested individually, either by a visual test or by a functional test. So let's say we machine a specific part, we will take a certain percentage of those parts and put them into some machines. Some machine will apply forces, moment, that kind of, to a part, and make sure that the whole batch is good as a whole. Once that's done, we move into the production side of things. So the production side of things, we have standard operating procedures that every single employee working on the line, they have a sheet inside of them. They have to go through it with their manager before they even start their job. And it shows them exactly how to assemble the scooter. So we have every single step of building a scooter is very detailed. The torque of the screw should be torqued at. And if there's any kind of Loctite, any kind of a very important information that should go in with that assembly, we have all those notes, and every single employee on the assembly line has that sheet right in front of them to make sure that they don't skip any step and that they produce the best product possible at the end. And then there's also like in progress QC. So as the scooter moves along the factory, there are some extra tests that are being made. So let's say like we assemble the single light on the scooter. So the worker that's assembling a single light, you would have his SOP in front of him showing him exactly how to assemble it. But then once that's assembled, we have an in progress QC where another guy his job is just to make sure that the single light works properly. So they would test the single light, left, right, all that kind of stuff, make sure that everything works properly. And that goes for every single critical component of the build. So let's say the motor controller or the motors, once those are assembled, we go and we make sure that the motor works properly, that all the speed setting work properly. So that's done as we assemble the scooter. Once the scooter is completely assembled, there's a visual check first, make sure that everything is properly assembled, all of that. And then there's also a functional test. So every scooter will be ridden around the factory or like inside the factory for, I think it's about 20, 30 meters. And the brakes will be tested, the acceleration, all that kind of stuff. Everything is tested properly. And we take a certain percentage of a production scooter, take them out of the line and do even more testing, like destructive testing. Like at the end, it's like the scooters, there's no way we could sell them to the employee. So for example, not the employee, the customer. Yeah, sorry. So we put them, so we put them on a treadmill with a bunch of weight. Let's say, I think right now we're testing everything at 220 kilograms, and it's a big treadmill there's a big wheel in the front with a bump, and it just bounces scooters up and down. And we do that for, I think it's like 300,000 repetition or something like that, or even higher. I would have to check, but it's very, very high. And it's like some of them we just go for like 10 days. The scooters on the treadmill just for 10 days, just being rattled up and make sure that nothing is going to break. So that's something that we've been implementing mostly on the city. Make sure that the neck never crack again. Make sure that all the suspension arms are all very, very strong. The body stays strong. So those are the main quality assurance step that we've been taking in the recent year. Yeah.
Okay. So it's incoming quality check, standard operating procedure, and then like the final visual and operational quality check, you said. There's like three steps, but then also there's a sample quality check that goes even further in depth at the end, right? And those ones are not sold to the public after.
No, we never sell that to the. So we have incoming QC, SOP,
Mhm.
in progress QC. Then we have an outgoing QC, which is mostly visual, and then we have a functional QC. And then apart
Okay.
from that, then we do extra tests on samples to ensure like that
Yeah.
the whole production or the scooter or the design itself is good.
And you said we do test every single scooter that we produce and sell, like the basic operational, the motors,
Yes.
do a quick test ride for every single one that we sell.
Yes, we do. Yeah. So
Oh,
like the
wow.
brake, so mostly braking, acceleration, now regen brake
Mhm.
as well. Like we're not going for a kilometer ride. It's just a quick ride, or just like a little testing track that they go around, and it
Mhm.
goes up and down to make sure that the motor perform well under load or higher load. So yes, every
Wow.
single scooter that we sell out of the factory goes through a basic functional test. Yeah, and as we also test like the
Okay.
Bluetooth connectivity, any like single light, any kind of electrical components. We like all of it is tested before being put in the box.
Very nice. And
Yeah,
so when it comes to like the incoming quality check, when new components are being produced for the scooter, or maybe just reproduced, what kind of tests do we do there? You mentioned about the battery. I guess we kind of
hmm
overload it and just run it continuously to determine the lifespan, stuff like that. Or what else do we do?
exactly. Yeah, so let's say for like the battery, we have like protocol document or testing protocol document and certain standards that we have to meet. It's like certifications that we have to meet. So let's say for a battery, we would connect it. And there's this specific apparatus that will just drain the battery and charge it, drain it, charge it, undervolt, overvolt, and we just try
Okay.
to bring the battery like the worst circumstance possible, and make sure that it will work properly when the user just uses it in a normal fashion. So we
Mhm.
stretch the battery. We just test it in all the worst condition possible. Like depending on what component of the scooter it is, there's different amount of cycles, different amount of hours that we test it. But we do
Mhm.
have all that documentation. It's all clear on how we test every single components that comes in or every new component. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any other interesting tests like that? Because I think people love to hear that kind of thing. Like any specific tests we do for like the lights or the frame. Well, I guess you kind of mentioned the frame already with the bump test, but
Yeah.
anything like in that IQC process.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say like any kind of LED or COB light that we would have. We have a heat thermal imaging sensor that would be shown like shine, I guess, reading the temperature of the light.
Hmm.
We turn on and off the light like for thousands and thousands of cycle, and then on in parallel, we'd have another test where the light is just left on for hours, and then we monitor the temperature. We monitor like any kind of glitches to make sure that the light won't be showing always the proper color. So there's all kind of tests like
Hmm.
that for lights. And then let's say for throttles and brakes, we have machine that just pushes on the throttle like 300,000 times. Like once every second it pushes like to make sure like that it's not going to break under normal loads. Uh,
Hmm.
what else? Let's say for the neck and the stem and everything, we have a machine that pushes on the stem hundreds of thousands of time and with a predetermined force, and just back and
Hmm.
forth, back and forth. And those tests run for days, like 3-4 days. That scooter is just there, just being pushed and pulled and pushed and pulled to make sure that it's not going to break when the
Okay.
user is right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, like peeking at you working sometimes, I've seen you like with computer programs, and you got like the whole 3D model, and you can even test for potential weak points this way, right? Before like the
Mhm.
scooter's even being produced. Can
Yeah. Yeah.
you share any of
Exactly.
that? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say like we have like let's say we receive 3D models and we're able to do it's called finite element analysis on our side to ensure that the design is uh, is strong enough. So let's say
Okay.
like the main body, the neck, all the main frame component, it all goes through finite element analysis, which determines any kind of weak points or areas that could break on the scooter, and then
Mhm.
and then I push that to the engineer or the designer, and from there, they can make changes. But ultimately, they are the one doing the changes and the design. But I just ensure that the design is not going to break under
Mm.
testing or
Okay.
under normal use. But the ultimate test really comes to the physical test. Finite element
Yeah.
analysis can only go so far. There's a lot of different variables that we can't test with those tests, but
Right.
all ultimately comes down to the physical test that's done on the factory on those thread mills, on those testing machines for hours. Yeah.
So this fine element, what is it called again? Fine element.
Finite element analysis. Yes. Yeah.
Finite, okay, element analysis. Does this come before the scooter, like even as a sample is produced? Is it like on the components individually, or is it done once production is already ramped up and we're just kind of looking for any other potential weaknesses?
Yeah, so that would all be done like before the first sample, and then as we iterate with sample, we do it every single time we iterate a sample.
Oh, I see.
And we try, let's say the scooter's too heavy, we try to determine where we can cut weight, where we should add more material, and then from there, the engineers they can add or remove material. But ultimately, like I'm not taking any of those decisions, and then other people are taking a decision. But ultimately, yeah, it just comes down to making sure that the scooter is as strong and as safe as possible for the end user.
Right. And so I guess these analyses also help us determine the kinds of tests we should be doing, right? Like what kind of load we should be loading on, like the weight. What else can we talk about? You mentioned the bump test. You mentioned, what else is there? I think there's also one where like they test the handlebars too. This is all done in person, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's the one where it pushes and pulls hundreds of thousands of times on the handlebar, make sure that the neck won't crack. Yeah,
have we had
pretty
any
cool.
Have we had any of the sample units get like completely destroyed?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because sometimes we do test them over 220 kilogram force, and we have certain factors of safety that we follow that are way above the industry standard, or maybe not. Yeah, the industry standard for sure. We have certain factors of safety that we make sure that every single scooter that we push out of the door meets. Yeah, on the finite element analysis side, on the physical side, that's when we just add load and more load until it breaks, and then once it breaks at a specific load and we're happy, we're talking about hundreds of kilogram force. Like it's no users will. Yeah.
So how long would you say the process is from like the first creation or ideation of a new model, going through the various iterations, the various samples that we receive and the various tests that we do? How long would you say that takes between, first idea to being in production?
Yeah, honestly, Apollo is extremely, we're extremely efficient here. I think it's incredible the amount of technology that we're developing in-house. And so I would say potentially like about a year from when we start conception to having like a final sample, let's say like a golden sample, we call it. So about a year, there's a lot of iterations. Sometimes we can have a 5, 6, 7 sample that we test like thoroughly. Yeah. So like right now for the Pro, we're currently on the 5th sample, I think. And every time it just gets better and better and better. And it's not always mechanical changes. Sometimes it's just, we want the lighting to be different, or we want the, like cosmetic as well. But every time we want to change anything cosmetic, seeing it on the computer is never the same as seeing it in person. Yeah. So and there's multiple steps that is involved, but normally like about a year. When it comes, let's say with the Pro, we have a lot of new technology going into it. Some of it that I'm not even sure if we have announced yet, and it's super exciting. But there's a lot of technological development that goes into it. So there's always like critical paths, and some stuff are taking longer. But typically, it takes about a year.
Wow, a year. Okay, and that's considered efficient. Yeah, it never really looks the same in person as it does on the computer. I know that personally from a lot of online shopping, but that's besides the point. But I find that a little bit surprising. Like a year is considered efficient. I don't know if you have any other past experience on what you can, relate as to what like maybe a normal process would be. 2 years, a year and a half. Like what would you consider?
I think because more like a scooter is extremely complex. Like when it comes into it, like there's close to 1,000 different components in a scooter, like screws and bolts and everything. Like there's so many components. So at the end of the day, like, yes, you're just designing a scooter, but you're designing, or you're outsourcing or designing, or it's close to 1,000 components. So it is a very, very daunting task. And when it comes down to it, there's just the sheer amount of components that you have to make sure everything is okay, like all the batteries, the motor, the neck, any kind of charger, or like like all of those, there's thousands of components at the end of the day that you have to design or ensure the quality. Yeah, no, it is a big task. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and it must be a lot to keep track of, especially here, but also there on the floor. And part of, I guess, what we have done to help, keep on top of this, we have hired a third-party quality control company, right? I believe we've mentioned this before. Are you working with this company as well, like in conjunction with them to help,
Yes.
ensure our standards are kept up?
Yes. So, like most of you know, we're based out of Montreal, and we can't fly to China every week to make sure that our factory there is following all of our standards. So to make sure that our standards are kept and met, we have a third party that will do random checks, and then we'll go there and write reports for us and make sure that the factory is following the incoming QC, that the factory is following the SOP, all of those steps. So we do have a third party they don't work for Apollo. They're like a complete third party, non-biased, and they make sure that all of our standards are, good, and that the factory are following them properly. So.
Okay. And would you say it's been working pretty well so far? Like how many, I don't know if you can even share how many times they've gone to the factory. Is it completely at random? Do they give any heads up to the factory ahead of time?
I think most of the time they do have to give a heads up, like a little bit of a heads up, but it is it's not enough that the factory like I said, day or two a heads up, and then they show up and to make sure that everything is in order in terms of quality assurance and quality checks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's something else that we've been implementing in the last 2 years or 2-3 years for sure. Just making sure that we can, just every single way that we can increase our quality assurance, we're moving towards.
Nice. So there's the IQC, the standard of operations. There's the final QC is kind of 2 steps, and then on top of that, the third-party quality control company. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's worth it, and it's necessary too. Like I think it's going to pay off, or it has been already.
Yes, 100%. Sometimes the user, they see some problems that sometimes a problem can sneak out of the crack, or something is not followed properly. But at the end of the day, the amount of problems that we do catch before it even reaches the end user, it's very encouraging to see. Like the end user, all they see is what didn't get caught, but the amount of work that is being put in here is so like soon enough our scooters are going to be the best of the best in terms of quality control. I already think it is. Comparing with other companies, the amount of quality control they do, it's very minimal, but not minimal, but it's I think we're doing pretty good.
Can we share maybe, because some people, when they receive their scooter, and some people do have problems, the first thing they do, well, some people will go online and complain about it, which is right, but then it also kind of perpetuates a bit of a vicious cycle where the loudest minority, they seem to overrepresent the problems that we were having. Is there any failure rate that we know of right now of most of our scooters? What do we consider a good failure rate? Because I think every company kind of expects some sort of failure rate, right?
Yeah. So right now we are aiming for a 1% failure rate, and we're not very far from it. Actually, we're fairly close to a 1% failure rate. Like you said, what you see online is always the scooters going bad, or things not going well. But the grand majority of people, their scooters are running perfectly fine out of the box, that they have no problem for months, way past their warranty. So that's the problem that we always have to face. It's sometimes it can be very discouraging. You look online, all you see is problem. But when you actually look at the numbers, the amount of scooters that we sell and the amount of scooters that are defective, let's say Tesla, their failure rate is in the 4%. Right now, I think we're in the 2%. There's some recent things that have happened that have bumped that up, but apart, we're really working to try to bring that down to 1% and have very thoroughly quality check and quality assurance program, just to try to bring the number even below 1% if we can. But right now, our goal is to bring it down to 1%, and then try to bring it even lower.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good goal. And there's no company that has 100% success rate, zero failures. It's very rare. No matter how many quality control checks, there's always going to be something that slips up. Shipping the scooters all the way from China to the west coast of North America, and then shipping it to the customer, it's a long process, and things happen along the way there too. But it sounds like we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, even just a vibration on a boat. It's scooters,
Yeah, that's
just
true.
bolts, just the whole thing vibrating for 4 days. And sometime if there's a billow deck or things like that, or there can be just a vibration itself can sometimes cause problems that we realized 3 months later when you arrive support. Yeah, so there's a lot of things to control, and we're trying to control them as best as we can.
Yeah, and it's not to downplay, any of those customers' experiences who have had negative experiences. Like, obviously, these are very valid, and we do want to try and correct this and, make it a good experience for everyone as much as possible. But unfortunately, sometimes things don't always go to plan. But we're moving in the right direction there.
Yeah, we're working really hard.
Yeah, you've been pulling a lot of long hours too, from what you've told me. Time out of your day, Aaron. I know you're very busy, and thanks everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to tune in next time for our next episode. If you have any suggestions on subjects you want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, ride safe.